All right, there's news which has just come in from Israel. Sirens are blaring in Tel Aviv for the first time in months. Hamas claims that it has fired a barrage of rockets into Israel. Israeli military claims that 8 rockets have been fired into Israel from Gaza's Rafah. The Israeli military said sirens had been activated over central Israel as fighting raged in Gaza, including in the far southern city of Rafah. We're joined by our correspondent, Jody Cohen from Ranana. Jody, it's a sound you're all too familiar with. What else do we know so far?
It is unfortunately a sound that we're all too familiar with, but actually one that we haven't heard in the center of Israel now for 4 months. We're hearing that, first of all, I can tell you what happened. There was suddenly a siren alert and people started heading towards the bomb shelter. I'm actually in a mall right now, so you can imagine there's hundreds of people here and all heading in the same direction towards the bunker. The siren alert went off a few times, and we were seeing that rockets were also aimed at a multitude of cities in the center of Israel. So Tel Aviv, Ranana, Herzliya, Petach Tikva, Hod HaSharon, and Ramat HaSharon. So it's a number of major cities in the center of Israel. Now, this is the first time in 4 months that rockets have been fired at central Israel, although, of course, there have been daily rockets fired by Hamas into the south of Israel and by Hezbollah into the north of Israel. This barrage of rockets has been claimed by Hamas, and we're hearing reports that the Iron Dome have intercepted them, and it will remain to be seen if there's going to be further rockets. We're also hearing reports that these rockets were fired by Hamas in Rafah, and reportedly that's because the Israel Defense Forces were quite close to the location of those rocket launchers. We're hearing that's yet to be confirmed.
Jody, now, we have been carrying this report since the morning that how we are so close to the resumption of peace talks, or at least a ceasefire talk, which were to resume in the next week. And now we've got this news which has just come in. It just shows how volatile the area still is. Do you feel any kind of ceasefire talks will resume anytime soon after this?
It's obviously hard to say what will happen because there are, it's not just Israel, it's also Hamas involved, plus all the mediators as well. And we have heard from an Egyptian official that talks were set to resume on Tuesday. We know the Israeli War Cabinet is expected to meet on Sunday evening to discuss the prospects of those talks. 125 hostages are still remaining in Gaza, and that's after the bodies of more of the hostages were recovered by the IDF in Gaza in recent days. Whether or not this barrage of rockets will impact those talks, if I had to guess, I would say it's unlikely to. I think Israel will carry on to respond, trying to target Hamas militarily, and they've said all along that their strategy is to try and get the hostages back, is both through diplomatic means, through resuming those talks wherever possible, and also through military pressure on Hamas to get them to agree also to come back to the talks. Don't forget that the Israeli government is also under pressure from the Israeli public. We're seeing weekly protests of people, particularly families and friends of the hostages, who are calling on the government to do absolutely everything they possibly can to get those talks back on track. But of course, it remains to be seen after this barrage fired at central Israel what will now happen with talks and if they'll go ahead on Tuesday.
All right, thanks, Jody. That was Jody Cohen getting us exactly what's happening in Israel as Hamas claims to have fired a barrage of rockets into Israel, where sirens are blaring for the first time in several months.